The energy policies that were created here in California, not as a result of a conspiracy, but because...
You don't need a formal conspiracy.
Right.
When interests converge. These people went to the same universities and fraternities. They're on the same boards of directors. They're in the same country clubs. They have like interests. They don't need to call a meeting. They know what's good for them, and they're getting it. And there used to be 7 oil companies. There are now 3. It will soon be 2. The things that matter in this country have been reduced in choice. There are 2 political parties. There are a handful of insurance companies. There are about 6 or 7 information things. But if you want a bagel, there are 23 flavors because you have the illusion. You have the illusion of choice.
Right.
You don't get the real important choice. There's no freedom of choice.
That's a great point. Right. And speaking of...
But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table to figure out how badly they're getting by a system that threw them overboard 30 years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shit jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long, where they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cockers who don't give a f about them. They don't give a f about you. They don't give a f about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue that's being jammed up their ass every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Hi everybody, this is Jake and this is Politics by Jake. 7 a.m. or thereabouts, depending on when the engineers put in the commercials and decide to plug in the content. August 4th, 2025, and welcome. We're reporting to you as usual out of Los Angeles, California. The flagship station is KCAA in Loma Linda, California, 102.3, and on the FM dial, 106.5 also, and 1050 AM. And welcome to all of you. And what this is our usual Monday and Friday bi-weekly thing that we do, where I talk to you, and I always say I'm going to do a general overview of everything that's going on in the world, and I never get to it. I always want to, but I never do. But I try, and the reason why I try is because I want you, Politics by Jake, we want to do political education. We believe in an informed electorate. I've talked to you about this many times. I've cited my own misapprehension of what is needed in order to cast a proper vote when I was young, and how basically I take from the experiences that I have had, and I don't want you to repeat those things, because we consider here at Politics by Jake that the vote is a sacred franchise. It is sacred. It is holy. It is the icon of our democratic republic. And you know, people will talk about this, the right-wing types, the reactionary types who just don't know any better. Somebody's telling them stuff and they're just kind of parroting it, will say, oh, this is a republic. And then you'll have other people say it's a democracy. And you even have this in the popular parlance. I remember in Star Wars, there's this one, and I know you know all the characters, there's this one point in time when Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's this Jedi master, says to a defeated Anakin Skywalker, who becomes, Darth Vader, he says, I support democracy. Well, here at Politics by Jake, we don't support democracy. And I'll explain that in a minute. And then you have, like I said, reactionary types who haven't descended into fascism yet, because the fascists are just fascists. They don't believe in a republic. They don't believe in a democracy. I just kind of gave it away. But they'll quote from Franklin, who said, and I don't have the exact words, but you can look it up. It's words to the effect of, we have given you a republic if you can keep it. And that's wrong, too. It's a little more right, but let me just not belabor this anymore and say that what the Founding Fathers gave us was a hybrid. It is neither a democracy or a republic. It is a combination of both. And we call it a democratic republic. And it has aspects in it of a republic, and it has aspects in it of a democracy as well. But it's not, strictly speaking, it's not a democracy. And it's not a pure republic either. So, okay, and, that's the kind of political education that we do here on Politics by Jake. And we, by the way, welcome you to the show. And, I know I have people who do podcasts, and they watch the show, and they take stuff from me. And I want to just applaud somebody who posted on X, and I'm not going to tell you who it was, but he has a show, and sometimes he's on he just goes on. He goes on when he feels like it, basically. And the guy's prolific. Sometimes he'll do 2 shows a day, and then he'll disappear for weeks and months at a time, and he doesn't do anything. But he's on lately, and one of the things that he pointed out, which I want to congratulate him on, and I can be critical of people when they say things that I don't necessarily believe are true, but that's vive la différence, vive la the First Amendment, freedom of expression, and more is the power to both of us. But I can express things that I think are wrong. And one of the things that I think he absolutely got right was the fact, and this is going on, and some of my colleagues are talking about it. They're talking about the New York Declaration with regard to the 2-state solution that many, many of the states in the world have signed on to stop this madness that's going on in Gaza. This in itself also a fascinating subject. Don't think I'm going to get to talk about it today, but the New York Declaration exists. Many, 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 many nations have signed on to it as a way to create a political solution for Gaza. But as I said, the part that I want to talk about is the part where, because, there's a lot of people who think that Israel is to blame for this, and they kind of are, but they are actually forced into it by Hamas. Hamas is really the one to blame by this, because Hamas is defeated. Hamas is part of the 4-H club, or the 3-H club. Hamas, the Houthis, and I can forget what the other one is. Oh, Hezbollah. Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Part of the 4-H club. They've been devastated by war. They've been destroyed by Israel. Iran is another one. We should include Iran in there. Iran has been defeated. They've been devastated. They've been humiliated. And the Houthis and Hezbollah and Hamas, similarly, Hamas had no plan. They had no plan to take care of their people, to feed their people, to defend their people against the inevitable attack that would come after they attacked Israel in October. Now it's 2023 that it happened. And Hamas essentially is a death cult, a fanatical death cult, a fanatical religious death cult masquerading as a political party, as a responsible government. And they're not. Because if you're going to do something like this, you have to take care for what the reaction is going to be. And it doesn't look like Hamas took care for what the reaction would be and how the people would be affected at all. And what you rather hear from Hamas, and of course they're old leaders, they're all dead. Haniyeh and Sinwar and all of those guys, they're all dead. They've all been killed. They cruelly imposed themselves using the color of authority of government upon the Gazans, and they treated the Gazans abysmally. And their plan, as a typical fanatical religious death cult, is to cause that Israel should be so provoked and so enraged that they will kill people, and they make films about how people are dying, and they have the children pose over the bodies and so on and so forth. Those are details. I have plenty of show to talk about today, but Hamas is to blame. Hamas is a predatory, a depredatory organization that kills its own people and that thinks that the answer to this is more Gazan deaths. When if you're a responsible government, and I go back to the American Civil War. If you have a responsible government, General Lee was defeated at Appomattox, and he saw that he had no way out. He saw that basically everything was over. And what did he do? He did what any responsible official would do when confronted with a situation like that. He asked for a truce. He formally surrendered. He stacked arms, and that basically means when the soldiers they lay down their arms and, they kind of put them in a pile or in a stack. It's called stack arms. They stack arms and they go home. But the Hamas isn't doing this. I didn't want to talk about this that much. I guess I'm talking about it a little bit, so let's keep on going. Israel now controls about 77% of Gaza, and the rest is being fought over, and Hamas is fighting over, and they're in territory where they're not really appreciated very much because it's kind of tribal and it's clannish in those areas, and apparently Hamas killed one of their people. And they don't like it. So Hamas is really fighting a defensive war against Israel in territory that is populated by people that are hostile to Hamas. But this guy got it right. And it's not common for people to say that this is Hamas's fault. It's common for people to say it's Israel's fault. Hamas did this. Hamas is to blame for this. Hamas is killing its own people, and that was its plan all along, and it is still its plan, because it's not doing what a responsible governmental organization would do when faced with such an abysmal... They've lost 70% of their territory. 77%, pardon me, not 70%, 77% of their territory. They're done. They're finished, and yet they're fighting on, because they're essentially religious fanatics. I mean, for the Muslim listeners out there, because we have Christian fanatics also, religious fanaticism is just a terrible thing. It like I said, it's basically like a death cult. So that's what's going on with that. And we do have the New York Declaration, and this is very important. And some of my colleagues are spending, one guy's spending, he does like a 2 or 3 hour show once a week. And he's spending a lot of his time talking just about this. And yet you're not really hearing about this in the news. So I just wanted to bring this up and make a little comment about it. And at this point, rather than get into the next thing I'm talking about, let's take a break. And this is Politics by Jake, and we will be back. And now here's a word from one of our sponsors, Twain Consulting. Hi, this is Jake with Twain Consulting. Let's be blunt, shall we? America is litigious. It's unstable, and it's financially weaponized. If your name is on everything you own, you're a sitting duck. At Twain Consulting, we help you vanish legally, ethically, and permanently. From land trusts to layered LLCs, we teach you how to restructure your assets so the predators can't see them and can't touch them. This isn't a loophole. It's a strategy that the wealthy have used for decades. Isn't it time you got the same protection? Call Twain Consulting at 805-380-5699 or visit us online. Protect what's yours before someone else claims it. And now let's get back to Jake and Politics by Jake. Hi, this is Jake with Politics by Jake to tell you you're not crazy. The system is rigged. Help us say it louder, won't you? Join us at patreon.com/Politics by Jake. Okay, and this is Politics by Jake, and we're back. And I just want to say, bleeding over into the second segment here, good on you, Guy. You absolutely got it right. You and I have our disagreements on things. It doesn't mean anything. It's just differences of opinion. But on this, you absolutely got this right. Hamas is the one to blame. They are killing their own people. They are fanatical. They are a religious death cult, and they need to basically go away, to stop resisting, and to surrender, and then to go into exile. And even this in of itself is problematic, because wherever the PLO used to go, I said I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm still talking about it. They literally tried to take over those places. They went into Jordan. That was Black September. That was 1970. They tried to take it over there. They went to Tunisia. They tried to take that place over. They went to Kuwait. They tried to take that place over. And there's more. Those are just the things that I remember off the top of my head. So this is not good, but it's what they need to do. So moving on, I know we've got a lot of stuff going on about this Epstein here, and let me say something that the script here says I thought I would never say it. No, I thought I'd say it. The MAGA movement is finally turning on Donald Trump. They're not turning on him over January 6th. They're not turning on him over the COVID lies, not even over the trials or the grift or the democracy smashing Project 2025. No, they're turning on him of all things because of Jeffrey Epstein. That's right. The man who could get away with anything in their eyes. And that's why I listed January 6th. He violently attempted to overthrow the government. He legislatively attempted to overthrow the government. He did what Hitler did in 1923, and he did what Hitler did in 1934, and also what Mussolini did starting in 1922. He did both things. I mean, he just trumped them. You'll excuse the expression. At COVID, the way he's got blood on his hands. The figures are in between about 800,000 American lives lost and 1.2 American lives lost. And the way he did it and the lies, they don't care about that. They don't care about the grift. They don't care about the fact that he's a felon 34 times over. Nah, that doesn't matter. They don't care about democracy smashing Project 2025, which basically is the Heritage Foundation's plan to turn the United States into a fascist dictatorship. No. They don't care about anything about that. This is the man who, and I'm talking about Donald Trump, the man who could get away with anything in their eyes, who bragged about grabbing women, who mocked veterans, who claimed Article 2 lets me do whatever they want. The person who said I could go out on Fifth Avenue in broad daylight and shoot somebody and murder them and kill them, and nothing would happen to me. This is the guy who has finally hit a line that they won't cross. And, I understand you if you feel that this is just twisted. This is twisted. And it's not about morality. That's the thing. It doesn't have anything to do with morality because they overlook morality when it comes to Donald Trump. So, like I said, don't get this twisted. They haven't found a conscience. This isn't about child trafficking. It's not about protecting the innocent. This is about the betrayal of the myth. What is the myth? The myth that Trump was the great revealer, that he was the chosen one who would rip open the vault, who would expose the pedophile rings in the DC pizza parlor in the basement, which has no basement. That's true. It's true. Bring down the deep state. See, that's what they signed up for. These nutbags, these nut jobs. But a genuine fracture is forming within the MAGA base, and it's not from liberal attacks. Because the Democrats, they've lost their way, folks. And you can talk to me here at Politics by Jake, and all you Democrats who have lost your way and are singing the Democratic equivalent of "We are poor little lambs who have lost our way, ba, ba, ba." Come to me, Politics by Jake, 7 a.m., cheap plug. Mondays and Fridays, KCAA. And also youtube.com/@politicsbyjake. Listen to the show. I will help because we believe in political repentance at Politics by Jake, and we will help you with that. So it's certainly not from liberal attacks because they don't know what the hell they're doing. But it's internal betrayal. That's what's going on. The Epstein issue is uniquely dangerous. And not for the reasons that you would think. Like I said, it's not because he was trafficking in underage children and Donald Trump was consorting with them. It's because it strikes at the emotional foundation of the Trump QAnon mythos. The political terrain is shifting. Fragmented cults can birth new leaders or chaotic splinters. This moment must be watched not just for its damage to Trump, but for what might come next. Because I told you, and I want to talk about this some more, and I'm beginning to think I'm not going to be able to do any more on the show than just talk about this, because this is so important. Because it's a cultural and societal phenomenon, and it needs to be analyzed and it needs to be talked about. So, like I said, the ones, and I've said this several times on the show, the ones who are coming after Trump comparatively is a doofus. And when the people who put him in office, who paid the millions and hundred millions and even billions of dollars to put in office, get what they want, they're going to dump him. And the ones who are coming after him are the ones who have been raised since about the time of St. Ronnie. That's right, Ronald Reagan, 1980 or so, and all the homeschooling and all the really the people who have been taught things that really aren't true and who really can't individuate that well as far as associating with people who don't believe what they do. Because and you see this in a lot of religions, and you see it in a lot of religious movements, that if you're not part of that religion, you're the enemy. But the fact of the matter is, they're pretty much all the same. We're pretty much all full of a bunch of baloney. And a lot of us are pretty much great guys, too. But these people were never societized into a public school situation or even a charter school or and this is not some of it, but this is some of it. This is a significant amount of them. And these are the people who wind up in these movements. These are the ones who have been taught all these things all their life, and they believe these things. They've never heard anything else. And these are the ones that are coming down the pike after Trump. Trump, he's just a grifter. He's a con man. That's all he's ever been. And right now, he's just trying to stay out of prison. He's just trying to die in his bed, holding all the reins of power. That's all he's doing. But the guys coming after him, and the ones like Émile Beauvais, who was just elevated to the judicial appeals bench, these guys are dangerous guys. So, like I said, this moment must be watched not just for its damage to Trump, but for what might come next. And now, of course, they think he's protecting the list. It started when Trump, in an interview, was asked directly about Epstein, and he squirmed, he hedged, and he ducked, bobbed and weaved, and he said, he called it a hot mess. And he said, quote, "I know nothing about it. Nothing about it." And honestly, I mean, better late than never. MAGA is definitely late to the party on this. Because this is old news. I mean, look. Here's some facts about Trump and Epstein. Trump was photographed partying with Epstein as early as the 1990s. Trump's name appeared in Epstein's flight logs. This has been reported by outlets like the Daily Mail, the New York Magazine, Business Insider. Mar-a-Lago was named in court documents as a location where Epstein recruited underage girls. Ghislaine Maxwell was photographed at Mar-a-Lago and reportedly recruited Virginia Jeffrey there, who later would commit suicide. And Trump, I mean, this is old news, guys. This has been known for a long time. And Trump, after Maxwell's arrest, said of her, "I wish her well," he said it publicly. When he was asked in 2024 about Epstein's client list, he responded, "I know nothing about it. I called the case a hot mess." I guess I just said that. This is from the man who partied with Epstein in the 90s. His name is on the flight logs. His Mar-a-Lago estate was a recruiting ground. He smiled in photos with Ghislaine Maxwell there at Mar-a-Lago, wished her well after her arrest. And suddenly he knows nothing? Well, I've enumerated all the things that his cult could notice and call him into question about. This is the thing. This is the thing they noticed. And they've lost it. MAGA influencers and former loyalists, they're expressing anger on TikTok, Telegram, X, even Truth Social. And at this point, let's take another break, and this is Politics by Jake, and we will be back after these messages.
And now here's a word from one of our sponsors, Twain Consulting. Hi, this is Jake with Twain Consulting. Imagine, if you will, having the power to disappear from the prying eyes of creditors, identity thieves, nosy strangers, all while protecting what you've worked so hard to build. That's what virtual invisibility offers. It's not magic. It's smart legal and business strategy to shield your assets and privacy so you can live free, confident, and in control. Most people think that asset protection is only for the ultra-wealthy, but it's for anyone who wants peace of mind and financial security, including you. Don't wait until it's too late. Take control now. Call me at 213-465-0639 or go to facebook.com/Twain Consulting to learn how virtual invisibility can protect you and your family, because when you're invisible to risk, you're unstoppable. And now let's get back to Jake and Politics by Jake. Hi, this is Jake with Politics by Jake. Do you like what you hear right now? Support the real talk then. Go to patreon.com/politics by Jake right now. Every dollar helps fight the noise.
Okay, hi, thank you very much, and this is Politics by Jake, and we're back, and we're talking about something that I didn't expect to spend more than, certainly not more than 10 minutes on, but it's already past 10 minutes, and I guess there's just more stuff, so we're going to keep going on it. This is about Trump and Epstein, or what's called Trumpstein, or what's called Trumpenstein, like, or Trumpenstein, like Frankenstein. And I know that I don't ordinarily like to cover these things that much because I know you're hearing about it. And this show is for political education. It's not really for this, but I guess we're doing it. So of all of the things, this is about where I left off. His cult noticed this particular thing, and not even for the reasons that you would expect, not for the morality about it, not for the criminal pedophilia or bestiality of it, but because it attacked the myth. And posts on Truth Social, on TikTok, on Telegram, and on X contain titles like, Trump lied about Epstein. Well, duh. I mean, Trump lies 10 times before he gets out of bed in the morning. He protected the list. Someone posted, I stood by you through it all. But this is the moment I question everything. Some are accusing Trump of betraying QAnon-style narratives and shielding global elites. Again, duh. Trump lied about Epstein is the title of another one. X threads are demanding that he release the names. Even truths on Truth Social. They're boiling over with betrayal. And these things, these are not liberals that are doing that. Like I said, the current crop of Democrats, with some exception, they're acting like doofuses. They're trying to figure out how to get reelected. They don't understand what it is that they need to do. They're not actually really reliable. You have a couple of standouts like Gavin Newsom, who wants to withhold state tax money from the federal government because of the things that he's doing, and organize the states into kind of something against the federal government. But the rank and file backbencher, liberal Democratic politician, forget it. No good. So in other words, that this is not liberal. This is not where this is coming from. It's not MSNBC where this is coming from. This is coming from his own. And the question to ask, from a psychological standpoint or an anthropological standpoint or a sociological standpoint is like, why now? And why is it this? And I think this is part of the answer that could be given that would be right, and it's because this was the central myth, and we don't realize and understand just how much this myth overtook the populace. The MAGA base didn't just want a president. They wanted retribution. They wanted an avenger. And what did we talk about? We've talked about the lumpen, those people who have fallen out of the middle class. We've talked about the fact that we've talked about narcissistic symbiosis, where people whose lives have been ruined. And make no mistake, there are many, many, many lives that have been ruined by globalization, by the loss of 60,000 factories and industries, and by the collateral industries that rose up to support those factories and those industries, which were sold sometimes piecemeal. They weren't even sold whole cloth. They were sold to the governments of our enemies based on an old 1948 organization, which I think still exists, called the Trilateral Commission, that talked about the 3 economic zones and how that there was an imbalance and how that needed to be corrected. And this was it. And this happened. Mitt Romney got rich being one of the people who did this. And now he's esteemed as a senator, and I actually think he's leaving the Senate, but he's esteemed because he's an old style like Republican. Well, listen, it's the old style Republicans, you'll excuse the expression, who gave us Donald Trump. Liz Cheney is one of them. She also is exalted. She gave us Donald Trump. Mitt Romney gave us Donald Trump. And it's a sad day for this Democratic Republic when the likes of those two are held up and esteemed as saviors of the nation. So anyway, what they wanted was retribution for all these things, and this is understandable. Their lives were destroyed by this. Their lives were destroyed by the subprime mortgage crisis of 2008, when President Bush came on the air on Friday afternoon and said, Deutsche Bank is in trouble. We need to bail them out to the tune of 750, I can't remember if it was million or billions of dollars, or on Monday, everything is destroyed. Basically just held the United States hostage, held the world hostage. This is part of what happened. The subprime mortgage where people lost their houses, COVID where people lost their lives and lost their jobs. I've enumerated this on other shows, and I'm kind of sketching it out, going through it here. But like George Carlin says, there's a reason why they call it the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it. Because this kind of human misery is going on. And this is what MAGA, who's misdirected, they were not explained just exactly why these things happen and how these things happen, even in the brief synopsis that I have just given you now. But they were angry. You have a wounded leader, Donald Trump, come by, who's wounded, 5 years old, knew he wasn't loved. Listen to what Mary, his niece, has to say about this. She's a clinical psychologist. She's licensed. She said he's a malignant narcissist. But according to Carl Jung, who is a great psychologist of the 20th century, you can have a melding, an enmeshing of the wounded leader, the wounded narcissistic leader, and those who have been wounded in the populace. And this is called narcissistic symbiosis. And they all want retribution. And Trump fed into that. And this is what he's about. And this is where the myth comes from. So they wanted retribution. And in Donald Trump, they found someone who they thought would give them retribution. They wanted an avenger. And Trump played that perfectly. Told them they were special. Chosen. Part of a secret battle between good and evil. I mean, he fed them Q crumbs, He called the press the enemy. Oh, by the way, this is Jake, Politics by Jake. Welcome. I just wanted to let you know I am an enemy of the people. 7 a.m., Mondays and Fridays, KCAA, cheap plug. But this is what he did. He called the press the enemy. He said, I caught the swamp. I caught them all. But now, when the Epstein question hits, and again, not for the reasons that you would expect, he backs away. He didn't just dodge a question. He broke the spell. It's amazing to contemplate that this is how it's happened. And they're waking up now. And they're in a panic. And at this point, let's take another break. This is Politics by Jake. We will be back.
And now here's a word from one of our sponsors, Consulting. Hi, I'm Jake with Twain Consulting. And if you're a business owner, freelancer, or entrepreneur, protecting what you've worked so hard to build starts with solid agreement. Imagine having agreements that make misunderstandings disappear and costly disputes a thing of the past. Get It in Writing is the all-in-one legal form package designed just for people like you, savvy entrepreneurs who want clear, enforceable contracts, whether you're hiring trusted contractors, leasing space, or closing deals that move your business forward. Get It in Writing provides easy-to-use, professionally drafted forms that save you time, money, and stress. Right now, you can get full access for just $99. That's 80% off the regular $497 price. A limited time opportunity you don't want to miss. Picture the peace of mind you'll have, knowing that your business is fully protected so you can confidently focus on growth and success. Don't wait until the unexpected happens. Take control. Secure your business today with Get It in Writing. Call us now at 213-465-0639 or visit facebook.com/Twain Consulting to get started. Now let's get back to Jake and Politics by Jake. Are you tired of the noise and the spin? Do you want the real story behind the headlines? I'm Jake, and this is Politics by Jake, where I tell you what they won't. And now, we're going even deeper, and I need your help to keep doing it. Join me on Patreon and support independent political analysis that doesn't pull punches. You'll get insider breakdowns, you'll get bonus clips, and first access to new content. So go to patreon.com/Politics by Jake. That's patreon.com/Politics by Jake. No filters, no fluff, just the truth. Let's do this together.
All right, welcome back. This is Politics by Jake. And we were talking about cultural narcissistic symbiosis is what we were talking about. And there are really psychological and cultural aspects to this. Trump positioned himself, as I said, as a mythic avenger, fighting the deep state. And the deep state is just... I'm not going to say there isn't a deep state, but it's networks that are embedded within federal departments and state departments. It's like it is a parallel government, but it's not what you think. And the logic, which escapes these people who support Trump, is that once you're elected, you basically become the deep state that you said you were going to fight. So he talked about fighting the deep state. He talked about saving the children, and QAnon and MAGA belief systems. They require Trump, as part of his bona fides, to be outside the elite, an exposer, not a protector. And psychologically and culturally, I think that, and I'm not going to pretend I'm the only one saying this. I am saying it, but I'm reluctant to think that I'm the only one saying it. But here's the idea. His refusal to speak out openly on Epstein, which, once again, bear with me, you would say, Jake, haven't we known about this since 2015? I say, yes. Yes. MAGA is late to the party. Yes. But it's like when you go to Disneyland and you're going on the Haunted Mansion and somebody in there tries to explain how everything is done. It's suspension of disbelief. That's what happened. So let's suspend our disbelief that anybody could be so stupid that they didn't know that this goes back to 2015, because, as I said, there's a different psychological and cultural dynamic that's going on. So I get you on that. Let's gloss over that for now for the sake of moving on. So again, QAnon and MAGA belief systems require Trump to be on the outside of the elite. He's supposed to be an exposer. He's supposed to be a savior. He's supposed to be an avenger. He's not supposed to protect the system. And his refusal to speak openly on Epstein is basically, I think it's shattering that mythology. And it risks, honestly, I mean, this is big. It risks the collapse of the entire cultic narrative. The QAnon and MAGA, because it is a cult, narrative. If Mary were to be here on the show, and I'm talking about Mary Trump, Trump's niece, the clinical psychologist who says this guy is like the most dangerous guy, and Bandy Lee from Yale, also a clinical psychologist who has several websites, well, a couple of websites. I think they're called, the one is called worldmentalhealth.org. And she also has talked about this. The 1,000 mental health workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, and the like, who have, like Bandy Lee and like Mary Trump, testified as to how incredibly dangerous Donald Trump is. The fact that this narrative is falling apart, it's like cognitive dissonance. It's failed prophecy. And let's talk about what cognitive dissonance is, okay? Because this is what's happening. Cognitive dissonance is defined as a psychological phenomenon that describes the mental discomfort or tension. This is putting it mildly, but okay. The mental discomfort or tension experienced, I might also say anxiety, that is experienced when a person holds two or more conflicting beliefs, ideas, values, or when their actions contradict their beliefs or values. This is a relatively recent concept. It was introduced by a psychologist named Leon Festinger in 1957. And it suggests that human beings all strive for internal consistency, and this is called homeostasis. And homeostasis applies to any organism, not just human beings. And when inconsistency, or dissonance you could call it, when that arises, it creates an uncomfortable psychological state that motivates the individual to reduce this discomfort. And people can reduce cognitive dissonance in several ways, such as changing their beliefs or attitudes, adjusting one of the conflicting cognitions, like that Donald Trump is an avenger, and that he's mythic, and that he's a god, or that he's Jesus Christ, okay? You know, beliefs or attitudes like that, to align with something else more mainstream. They can change their behavior. They can alter their actions to be consistent with their beliefs, add new cognitions, rationalizations, you know, introducing new thoughts or new justifications to bridge the gap between the conflicting elements, often by downplaying the inconsistency or finding external reasons for their behavior, like, oh my gosh, Donald Trump really is a crook. That's not in the definition. I'm just making a comment on that. And the last way you can do it is you can minimize the importance of the conflicting cognitions, deciding that the conflicting beliefs or actions really aren't that significant. And it uses just an example for a person, like, say a person believes strongly in environmental protection, and that would be, let's just call that cognition 1. But this person frequently drives a gas-guzzling car, which is a behavior. A person like that might experience cognitive dissonance. And to reduce this, they might rationalize their driving by saying, well, public transport isn't really feasible for me. Or they might try to offset their carbon footprint in other ways. Or they might simply try to avoid thinking about the conflict, which, you know, could definitely happen too. So the disillusioned believers, they're already psychologically primed for radicalization or retaliation. Like I said, if you think Donald Trump is bad, just wait who's coming next. This is what cult collapse looks like. When the prophecy fails, when the Savior falters, I'm reminded of Savonarola, that's another who walked into the fire. That's a whole other story. and I'd like to tell you that story because it's a really interesting story. Basically, just let me say he's reactionary. He disobeyed the Pope. He disobeyed Rome. He defied the Pope by preaching under a ban. He highlighted his campaign for reform with processions that have since come to be known as the Bonfire of the Vanities. Remember the film about that? Pious theatricals. In retaliation, Pope Alexander excommunicated him and threatened to place Florence under an interdict, a trial by fire. And I'm just briefly going through this because this is really an interesting story. The way I'm telling it to you is not that interesting, but this is really, I'm going to have to talk to you about this. There's more to this than what I'm saying. A trial by fire proposed by a rival Florentine preacher in 1498 to test Savonarola's divine mandate. It turned into a fiasco because it rained. There was a thunderstorm. It's like, put the fire out. So popular opinion turned against him, though. Savonarola and two of his supporting friars were imprisoned, and on 23rd May 1498, they were condemned, hanged, and the bodies were burned. But this guy was a reactionary. And what was Savonarola's downfall? The prophecy failed. The Savior faltered. At one point, the people were starving. And when the Savior falters, disciples just don't shrug. They rage. They reinterpret. They burn their idols. And this moment, this Epstein dodge may be the beginning of that bonfire, because if Trump is protecting elites, if in fact he is one of them, and I realize that those of you who listen to the show and are politically educated and politically active realize this is all, we're talking about people who they're up in the night. They've been engaging in this cultural narcissistic symbiosis ever since 2015, and now they're coming out of it. So I'm talking as if it was what's happening to them, not what's happening to politically educated people who listen to Politics by Jake. So if Trump is really protecting elites, if he is one of them, it's just stunning, I just can't even believe I'm saying this, then the entire narrative, which we've all known about since 2015, the entire narrative about a deep state, about saving the children, about trusting the plan, it all comes crashing down. And I mean, let's be honest, okay? This isn't a moral awakening that's occurred. These maggots. And I know some of you listen to the show. Welcome to the show. This isn't QAnon. This isn't this great crusade. This is projection. Finally breaking its mirror. These people didn't care when Trump mocked disabled reporters, or when kids died in cages, were separated from their families. Up to this point have not even found their families again, some of them, or when he joked about dating his daughter. But say the wrong thing about Epstein, and suddenly they find their spine? No. This isn't about that. This is about ownership. It's about betrayal of a fantasy, and you could call it an ideation that they adopted internally into their minds. A fantasy, an ideation they thought they were building with him that would give them meaning for their otherwise destroyed lives. I mean, so what does this mean for the rest of us? It means we're entering a new unstable phase. Not where Trump's power is gone, but where although that's happening, but where his base becomes volatile. Disillusioned believers are the most dangerous kind. They don't go quietly. What they do is they look for new messiahs, like the people who I have just said are coming after Trump. Or they come back with a vengeance. So watch the splinters. Watch who rises from the ashes of Trump's betrayal. Because this isn't just a scandal. This is a fracture in the cult. And when it breaks it doesn't break clean. And this is Politics by Jake.
And now here's a word from one of our sponsors, Twain Consulting. Hi, this is Jake with Twain Consulting. If you think owning things in your own name keeps you in control, think again. In today's world, lawsuits, taxes, and predators are everywhere. That's why the smart money hides in plain sight. We help you to build legal firewalls, LLCs, land trusts, private contracts that protect your assets while keeping you invisible. Call Twain Consulting today at 310-997-2204. Find us on Facebook at Twain Consulting. That's facebook.com/Twain Consulting. Protect what you've built before someone else takes it. And now let's get back to Jake and Politics by Jake.